Being black is a blessing. It's not a curse or a cage. It defines who you are and makes you special. For ages, the uniqueness of black genetics has been overlooked and underappreciated. And while it doesn't make black genetics superior and genetics of other races inferior, it is our duty to embrace and appreciate the blessing that nature has given us. Fighting and rising, black people have faced racism for ages, and their uniqueness might be the reason. Today, we're all going to tell you why being black is a blessing. So stay until the end. Back in the 1980s, a big shakeup happened in long-distance running around the world. Before that, most of the fastest runners came from Europe. Can you believe it? Half of the top 20 runners were European, and only 30% were African. But things changed. Nowadays, European runners make up only 11% of the best, while African runners skyrocketed to 85%. And guess what? More than half of those African runners are from Kenya. In fact, African runners now dominate in middle and long-distance running, cross-country running, and street running. The reason? European runners aren't losing because they're slowing down. It's just that African runners are speeding up. Ethiopians and Kenyans especially own more than 90% of all the world records in middle and long-distance running. They also dominate the top 10 sports in the world rankings. So, what's their secret sauce that makes them the best? In sports, doing well depends on a bunch of stuff working together. Some of it comes from inside us, like our genes and biology. But there's also stuff from outside, like how much we practice, the environment we're in, what we eat, how we train, and even things like how much money we have and how we feel about our career. It's like a big mix of everything. Some things we can improve through training, like our body's physiology, how we think, and how we move. We can also learn techniques and strategies. But there are some things we can't change, like how old we are and the genes we're born with. People have always said that our genes have a big say in how good we can be at sports. They determine things like our body shape, heart health, and how our muscles respond to training. Lots of things might explain why African runners are so good at what they do, what some call the African runners phenomenon. These include their genes, which might give them a head start, their ability to take in lots of oxygen, having a high concentration of hemoglobin in their blood, good metabolic efficiency based on body shape, the right mix of muscle fibers, and specific enzymes. Also, their diet, which is often traditional in Kenya and Ethiopia, and training in high-altitude places could be factors. The anthropometric literature shows that center of mass in blacks is 3% higher above the ground than in whites. This means that blacks hold a 1.5% speed advantage in running, and that is the reason why most of the time blacks are the fastest runners. Research has found that black people tend to have 10 to 20% more bone mineral than white people of the same height. This suggests that black individuals' lean body mass is denser than white individuals. To check if the lean body mass of black people is denser than that of white people, researchers studied 19 white and 15 black male college students. They measured things like density, total body water, and body dimensions. Surprisingly, the black and white students were very similar in height, weight, and total body water. Among the white students, there wasn't a big difference between the density they observed and what was predicted from their body measurements. Although the dimensions of their body composition calculated from total body water matched those calculated from observed density. Surprisingly, among the black students, things were a bit different. Their observed density was actually higher than what was predicted from their body measurements. Plus, the lean body mass calculated from observed density was also higher than what was calculated from total body water. These findings support the idea that the lean body mass of black people is denser than that of white people. This denser lean body mass might give black individuals certain advantages, For instance, denser bones and muscles could potentially contribute to greater strength and resilience, which could be beneficial in various physical activities, including sports and manual labor. Additionally, denser lean body mass might also imply a lower risk of osteoporosis and related bone diseases later in life. A common genetic trait among individuals of African origin is a deletion or downregulation of a gene responsible for producing the protein myostatin. Myostatin plays a crucial role in regulating muscle size and density by influencing the growth of different types of muscle fibers, including slow and fast twitch fibers. When myostatin is downregulated, it tends to promote the development of fast twitch muscle fibers over slow twitch fibers. This genetic characteristic can be observed in various athletic events. Sprinters, runners, and fighters, for example, require high speed and a certain level of endurance, traits that are often associated with dominance in these events among black athletes. The preferential development of fast twitch muscle fibers may contribute to their success in these athletic endeavors. Would you believe it if I told you that you're genetically stronger? A study led by Cornell University discovered that white Americans are genetically less diverse and potentially weaker compared to their black counterparts. The researchers studied the genetic composition of 20 Americans with European ancestry and 15 African Americans. They found that the European group showed much less variation among 10,000 tested genes compared to the African American group, which wasn't surprising given historical migration patterns. What surprised them, though, was that Europeans had a lot more potentially harmful mutations than Africans. A recent study reveals that Africans have the highest genetic variation among all populations on Earth. This finding sheds light on a likely location where humans first evolved, which is believed to be near the border of South Africa and being near the border of South Africa and Namibia. Why is being genetically diverse a good thing? You see, maintaining high genetic diversity allows species to adapt to future environmental changes and avoid inbreeding. If you've looked closely, you will realize that black people seem to stay ageless. Now, while healthy-looking skin can be achieved by having a good diet, genes do play a huge role in it. Skin aging happens due to two main factors: chronological aging and photoaging. Chronological aging is inevitable. As time passes, our skin naturally ages. There's not much we can do to stop it. However, photoaging is different. It's caused by exposure to the sun's UV rays. The degree of photoaging varies based on your skin color, which is influenced by the amount of pigment your skin produces. Darker skin tones have larger pockets in skin cells called melanosomes, which contain melanin, the pigment that gives skin its color. Very fair skin produces minimal melanin, while Asian skin produces a yellowish type called pheomelanin. Black skin produces the darkest and thickest melanin, known as eumelanin. This pigment protects the skin from UV damage, but can also influence how the skin ages over time. The bottom line is that it's not only about the size of these pockets in skin cells, but also about how densely packed the melanin is within them. In black skin, the melanin is tightly packed, which means it absorbs and scatters more light. This dense packing provides more protection from the sun's ultraviolet rays, so people with darker skin tones generally have a natural built-in defense mechanism against sun damage compared to those with lighter skin tones. It's interesting to note that there have been relatively few recent studies on this topic. However, a notable study from 1979 by Case Cadby and colleagues in the United States sheds light on the matter. They found that, on average, 55% of ultraviolet A rays penetrate Caucasian skin, while fewer than 18% get through African American skin. This stark difference is one reason why photoaging tends to be delayed in people with darker skin tones. The natural protection provided by darker skin against UV rays contributes to this delay in aging signs compared to those with lighter skin tones. It's found that Americans of African descent exhibit a more robust immune response to infections when compared to Americans of European descent. The study marks the first time this distinction in immune responses has been established, indicating that it is largely genetic, passed down from our ancestors and shaped by recent natural selection. The study involved 175 Americans, with half of them being of African descent and the other half of European descent. It was conducted in collaboration with several institutions, including the University of California, Wayne State University, Cornell University, the University of Minnesota, and Duke University. In Professor Barrero's study, the 175 participants gave blood samples which were used to extract macrophages. These are immune cells responsible for fighting off infection-causing pathogens. The researchers then infected these macrophages with two types of bacteria, Listeria and Salmonella, to observe different immune responses. After 24 hours of infection, the macrophages from African Americans were found to kill the bacteria 3 times faster than those from European Americans. The research team also identified the molecular mechanisms that influence the genes responsible for these differences in immune responses. Now, this is a huge discovery, but although we have identified differences in immune responses between African and European Americans, we have yet to determine the exact evolutionary pressures that led to these distinctions. One hypothesis suggests that after human populations migrated out of Africa in prehistoric times, they encountered fewer pathogens, such as bacteria, viruses, and parasites, resulting in a reduced immune response and tissue inflammation. This reduction in immune response and inflammation likely conferred an advantage due to the detrimental effects of acute or chronic inflammation, which are major contributors to autoimmune inflammatory diseases. Another hypothesis posits that the weaker immune response observed in Europeans could be attributed to less vigorous natural selection in an environment with fewer or different pathogens compared to Africa. In another